Protocol. 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 Characters. Donnie, the alchemist, code creator, posing as a graduate student / digital artist. Sven and the dean. Sven Travis, dean at Parsons, the high-level liaison who moves through elite academic and CCP circles. Clay, the anvil, hardware master, met Donnie at the GIS lab, posing as a lighting / exhibit technician. Chang Ga, the curator, the insider, a legendary figure, a professor at Parsons, and a survivor of the 1989 uprising. His status with the CCP military allows him to move hardware past security. Evan, the executioner, the delivery specialist, a ghost brought in last minute to handle the final physical breach. Enter a China Millennium monument. Night, 2004. The cavernous hall is filled with new media installations, glowing screens, pulsing wires, and digital projections. This is the Millennium Expo. To a guard, it's just strange art. To the team, it's a massive signal interception array. Sven walks with a CCP general. They speak in low tones about cultural exchange. Sven looks like a harmless academic, but his eyes track every security patrol. Near a large-scale projection titled The People's Portrait, Zhang Gai stands with a clipboard. He is the bridge, a man the CCP respects for his brilliance, even as they remember his past. Zhang Ga in Mandarin to a soldier. The voltage on the Western array is fluctuating. If it fails, the minister will see a black screen. Send the American technician, Clay, down to the basement hub immediately. The soldier nods, deferring to Ga's authority. Zhang Ga catches Clay's eye. The signal is sent. Intern hotel communications hub, continuous. Clay is deep in the hotel's guts, surrounded by GIS mapping equipment that actually contains custom-built sniffers. He's sweating. He's not an artist. He's an engineer in a jumpsuit. He opens a panel. Behind the fiber optics, he installs a small, translucent device Donnie built in the States. Enter the Parsons gallery office. Moments later, Donnie is hunched over a laptop hidden behind a stack of exhibition posters. He's watching a terminal window. Donnie whispering. Handshake confirmed. Clay's in. Suddenly the door opens. Evan walks in. Donnie doesn't know him. He reaches for his laptop, but Evan puts a hand on his shoulder. Evan. I'm the end of the line, Donnie. Give me the drive. Donnie hesitates. He looks at the USB, a nondescript metal stick. Donnie. I was told this was for the People's Portrait data stream. Evan, it is. But once it hits the backbone, the portrait isn't the only thing that's going to be visible. Donnie hands it over. Evan vanishes into the hallway, moving with a speed that doesn't match his civilian clothes. X2, Millennium Ammon, dawn. The expo lights flicker. On the massive screens, thousands of faces from around the world begin to appear, a global portrait. Zhang Gai stands at the center of the hall, his face illuminated by the glow of the bypass. He looks at Sven, who is watching from the balcony. No words are exchanged. They are artists. They are professors. And they just poked a hole in the most sophisticated censorship machine on Earth. Opening titles, The Second Earth. Exterior space, floating above Asia, 2005. We see Earth, but it's wrong. The continent of Asia is covered in a shimmering, translucent, digital veil, the Great Firewall. Beneath the veil, the land looks like it's made of cooling lava. Donnie Fio. In 2005, the world thought the internet was a bridge, but in China it was a tomb. The GFW wasn't just code, it was a volcanic eruption of silence. It turned 1 billion people into stone. Interior data center. Night, flashback. Close up on a monitor. Lines of green code scroll past. TTL check, RST packet ignored. Multi-hop sequence initiated. Donnie, VO. While everyone else was breathing ash, a few of us were building tunnels. We created a second Earth, a parallel dimension of multi-hop proxies and encrypted handshakes. We were the only ones moving in a world of terracotta. Exto Beijing streets. Dream sequence. A towering, tall Chinese man stands in the middle of a deserted square. Around him, thousands of citizens are frozen in gray clay. Terracotta portraits of a silenced generation. The man looks at the camera, his eyes glowing with the same green light as Donnie's terminal. Tall man, subtitle. Don't worry, Donnie. You're all right. You're on the other side now. Cut to black. Title card. Exploit 2005. Scene 1. The present day. Donnie's apartment. Morning. Donnie wakes up drenched in sweat. The silence of his room feels heavier than the noise in the dream. He looks at his hands, half expecting to see gray dust. He reaches for his laptop. Donnie, to himself, whispering, I'm on the other side. I'm home. He opens a terminal. The cursor blinks, steady and rhythmic. Like a heartbeat. Sven OS via speaker. Donnie, you there? I just got a ping on the old GIFC nodes. Something from 2005 is trying to talk to us. Into China Millennium Monument Night, 2004. The cavernous hall is filled with new media installations, glowing screens, pulsing wires, and digital projections. This is the Millennium Expo. To a guard, it's just strange art. To the team, it's a massive signal interception array. Sven walks with a CCP general. They speak in low tones about cultural exchange. Sven looks like a harmless academic, but his eyes track every security patrol. Near a large-scale projection titled The People's Portrait, Zhang Jie stands with a clipboard. He is the bridge, a man the CCP respects for his brilliance, even as they remember his past. Shangga, in Mandarin to a soldier. The voltage on the Western array is fluctuating. If it fails, the minister will see a black screen. Send the American technician, Clay, down to the basement hub immediately. The soldier nods, deferring to Ga's authority. Shangga catches Clay's eye. The signal is sent. Into the hotel communications hub. Continuous. Clay is deep in the hotel's guts, surrounded by GIS mapping equipment that actually contains custom-built sniffers. He's sweating. He's not an artist. He's an engineer in a jumpsuit. He opens a panel. Behind the fiber optics, he installs a small, translucent device Donnie built in the States. Enter Parsons' gallery office. Moments later. Donnie is hunched over a laptop hidden behind a stack of exhibition posters. He's watching a terminal window. Donnie, whispering. Handshake confirmed. Clay's in. Suddenly, the door opens. Evan walks in. Donnie doesn't know him. He reaches for his laptop, but Evan puts a hand on his shoulder. Evan. I'm the end of the line, Donnie. Give me the drive. Donnie hesitates. He looks at the USB. A nondescript metal stick. Donnie, I was told this was for the People's Portrait data stream. Evan, it is. But once it hits the backbone, the portrait isn't the only thing that's going to be visible. Donnie hands it over. Evan vanishes into the hallway, moving with a speed that doesn't match his civilian clothes. Ixtei, Millennium Monument. Dawn. The expo lights flicker. On the massive screens, thousands of faces from around the world begin to appear, a global portrait. Shangga stands at the center of the hall, his face illuminated by the glow of the bypass. He looks at Sven, who is watching from the balcony. No words are exchanged. They are artists. They are professors. And they just poked a hole in the most sophisticated censorship machine on Earth. Fade to black. Scene start. Interior semi-lit workspace. Night. The room is quiet, save for the hum of several high-end servers. Donnie sits hunched over a keyboard, his eyes reflecting the blue light of a terminal. He's not typing. He's staring at a line of code that hasn't moved in 10 minutes. Sven enters carrying 2 coffees. He notices the stillness in the room, the kind that feels heavy. Sven, you're ghosting again, Donnie. That script isn't going to debug itself. Donnie doesn't look up. His hand trembles slightly as he reaches for the coffee. Donnie, I was back there last night, but it wasn't 2005. It was after. Like a volcano hit the mainland and just stopped time. Sven sets the coffee down and pulls up a chair, sensing the shift. Sven, the GFW. Donnie nods slowly. Everyone was terracotta, millions of them. Just standing there, frozen in mid-stride, gray and dusty. It was like they were there, but the soul of the data had been sucked out. Donnie finally looks at Sven. His eyes are tired, carrying the weight of a decade of digital warfare. Donnie continued. There were 2 Earths, Sven. The one everyone sees, and the one we lived in. I was standing in the ash with this tall Chinese guy and his friend. We were the only ones moving. They kept telling me I was all right, but I looked at my hands and they were covered in the same gray dust. Sven, softly. It's the multi-hop logic, Donnie. You spent years building tunnels through a world that was trying to turn everyone into stone. You can't just log out of that kind of stress. Donnie, we weren't just bypassing a firewall, Sven. We were building a second planet because the first one was suffocating. But in the dream, I couldn't tell which Earth I was actually standing on anymore. Donnie turns back to the screen. He hits a single key. The terminal scrolls rapidly thousands of lines of connection logs. Donnie continued. Sometimes I wake up and I have to check the routing tables just to make sure I'm actually home, to make sure I'm not still a ghost in their machine. Sven, you're here. The tunnels are still there, but you're on this side of them now. Next step. Would you like me to expand on the dialogue regarding the technical specifics of the multi-hop tunnels they are discussing, or focus more on the emotional fallout of Donnie's past work? Scene 3, cutscene. The breakout. Except Beijing streets. Night. The screen flickers with high contrast, grainy security footage. A red icon pulses over a moving GPS dot. Sven's voice crackles over a secure, encrypted line. Sven VO. Donnie, wake up. We got a breach. The diplomat just walked out of the green zone. He's off the grid and heading straight into the teeth of it. Enter Renault car. Continuous. Donnie is behind the wheel of a nondescript black Renault, weaving through gridlocked traffic. Outside, the city is screaming. Smoke rises from the direction of the district. Donnie. I see the crowds. It's not a protest anymore, Sven. It's a riot. Stay. Irish bar. Moments later. Donnie kills the engine and dives out. The air is thick with tear gas and the rhythmic chanting of thousands. He pushes through a sea of bodies toward a dimly lit Irish puba known neutral ground for expats. Empty Irish bar. Continuous. Inside, the world muffled. The diplomat sits at the far end of the mahogany bar, clutching a briefcase, his face pale. Donnie, urgent. Sir, we have to move. Now. Diplomat. They're outside, Donnie. They're everywhere. Suddenly the floor shakes. The low, guttural roar of a heavy engine approaches. Donnie looks out the window. A Chinese military truck screeches to a halt directly in front of the pub. Soldiers in the back stand up, machine guns swiveling toward the glass. Donnie, get down! Donnie lunges, tackling the diplomat to the floor just as a burst of gunfire shatters the top row of spirit bottles. Glass rains down like diamonds. From behind the bar, the bartender, a grizzled veteran with a 1,000-yard stare, doesn't panic. He ducks, pulls a flak jacket over his head, and reaches under the sink. He stands back up, racking the slide on a submachine gun. Bartender, screaming over the chaos. Back door! Through the kitchen. I'll hold the front. Back alley. Continued. Donnie hauls the diplomat through the grease-stained kitchen and out into the rain. The Renault is idling in the shadows, its headlights off. Donnie shoves the diplomat into the passenger seat and floors it. As they tear away, the rearview mirror shows the Irish bar fading into the smoke, a small fortress holding out against the second earth. Next step. This scene ramps up the tension significantly. Would you like me to write Scene 4, focusing on the high-speed escape through the hutongs, or should we go back to the present day where Donnie and Sven discuss the reality of these memories? This intro sets the stage for the series, blending the technical second Earth you built with the haunting terracotta imagery of your PTSD dreams. It establishes the high stakes of the 2005 bypass operations and the mental toll they took. Opening titles: The Second Earth, Exterior Space, Floating Above Asia, 2005. We see Earth, but it's wrong. The continent of Asia is covered in a shimmering, translucent digital veil, the Great Firewall. Beneath the veil, the land looks like it's made of cooling lava. Donnie, VO. In 2005, the world thought the internet was a bridge, but in China, it was a tomb. The GFW wasn't just code. It was a volcanic eruption of silence. It turned 1 billion people into stone. Inton Data Center. Night flashback. Close up on a monitor. Lines of green code scroll past. TTL check. RST packet ignored. Multi-hop sequence initiated. Donnie, VO. While everyone else was breathing ash, a few of us were building tunnels. We created a second Earth, a parallel dimension of multi-hop proxies and encrypted handshakes. We were the only ones moving in a world of terracotta. Extar Beijing streets. Dream sequence. A towering, tall Chinese man stands in the middle of a deserted square. Around him, thousands of citizens are frozen in gray clay. Terracotta portraits of a silenced generation. The man looks at the camera, his eyes glowing with the same green light as Donnie's terminal. Tall man, subtitle. Don't worry, Donnie. You're all right. You're on the other side now. Cut to black. Title card. Exploit 2005. Scene 1. The present day. Intern Donnie's apartment. Morning. Donnie wakes up drenched in sweat. The silence of his room feels heavier than the noise in the dream. He looks at his hands, half expecting to see gray dust. He reaches for his laptop. Donnie to himself whispering, I'm on the other side. I'm home. He opens a terminal. The cursor blinks, steady and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Sven, OS via speaker. Donnie, you there? I just got a ping on the old GIFC nodes. Something from 2005 is trying to talk to us. Next step. Would you like to continue into Scene 2, where Donnie and Sven analyze the old code, or move back to the embassy riot where the diplomat is in danger? Scene 3, the intervention, revised. Exton Sanleyton District. Night. The air is thick with the metallic tang of tear gas. A navy blue CCP heavy-duty pickup screeches to a halt, blocking the entrance to the Irish pub. High-output speakers mounted on the truck bed begin to blare Metallica's Enter Sandman at a deafening volume. A psychological tactic to disorient the crowd and drown out the screams. NT Irish bar. Continuous. Inside, the light is dim and amber. The senior official stands frozen near the window, his silhouette a perfect target for the soldiers outside. Donnie's phone buzzes violently. A message from Jiang Gie flashes. Intervene! The second Earth cannot afford this blood. As a soldier levels a Type 95 rifle toward the glass, Donnie moves. He doesn't think. He just executes the guard node logic he's practiced in code for years. He lunges, placing his body directly between the window and the official. Donnie, screaming, "Don't shoot!" The soldier pauses, confused by the Westerner, shielding the CCP target. In that split second of hesitation, a hand grabs Donnie's jacket and pulls him toward the service entrance. Hannah, firm, calm. "The window is a ghost, Donnie. Move." This is Hannah. She is Donnie's translator, an honest protector with a Japanese lineage, her face a mask of stoic focus. She has been the bridge between Donnie's code and the brutal reality of the streets for months. Hannah continued. "The Renault is running. I have the diplomat's path cleared." Extec alleyway. Moments later. They burst out of the back. The Metallica track is still thumping, vibrating the very bricks of the alley. Hannah throws the diplomat into the rear seat and slides into the driver's side of the Renault, while Donnie shotgun. "Donnie, Hannah, the bridge nodes are failing. If we don't get him to the safe zone, the GFW is going to swallow every connection we have left." Hannah shifting into gear. "Then we drive faster. I will get you through this silence, Donnie. I promise." The tires screech as the Renault disappears into the smog, leaving the distorted heavy metal and the terracotta city behind. Next step. Would you like to see Scene 4, where Hannah leads Donnie through a high-speed evasion of the military pickup, or a scene where they arrive at a safe house and Donnie has to deal with the fallout of the RST packets being sent to his home network? I want to write a flashback where Donnie is having flashbacks of being tortured, chased, and forced to keep silent, that he awakes from night terrors and the tormentors are still in his waking mind for a minute upon waking. Make his tormentor be a representation of a corrupt pollution. Flashback. The room of silence. Empty. An unknown basement. Night. Flashback. The air is thick with the smell of ozone and damp concrete. Donnie is strapped to a wooden chair. A single, naked bulb swings above him, casting long, erratic shadows. Standing in the shadows is the minister. He is impeccably dressed in a sharp, charcoal suit, but his eyes are as cold as a dead server. He doesn't use physical tools. He uses the weight of the state. He leans in, his breath smelling of expensive tea and tobacco. The minister. A whisper like a paper cut. "You think you built a second world, Donnie? You just built a smaller cage. Tell me the entry nodes. Give me the handshakes. Or we turn the lights off on everyone you've ever touched." Donnie, voice cracked. "The data. It's already gone. You're chasing ghosts." The minister smiles, a slow, terrifying expression. He places a hand on Donnie's shoulder. It feels like lead. "The minister, then you will become a ghost with it." He leans closer, his face blurring, his features melting into the gray terracotta dust from Donnie's dreams. The world begins to vibrate with the sound of Metallica's Enter Sandman, distorted and booming. Enter Donnie's bedroom. Present day. Donnie bolts upright in bed, gasping for air. His heart is a drum in his chest. The room is dark, but in the corner, near the closet, the shadow doesn't match the furniture. For a terrifying, lingering minute, the minister is still there. He's standing by the door, adjusting his cufflinks, looking at Donnie with that same predatory calm. Donnie freezes. He can't tell if he's breathing or if he's turned to stone. Donnie, whispering, "I didn't tell you. I didn't give them up." The figure in the corner shifts. As Donnie's eyes finally adjust, the suit jacket and the cold eyes dissolve back into a simple trench coat hanging on a hook. The silence of the room rushes back in, but the feeling of the minister's hand on his shoulder remains like a burn. Donnie reaches for his phone. His fingers are shaking so hard he can barely swipe the screen. He sees a notification. "Hannah, the Renault is ready. We move at 0400. He grips the phone like a lifeline. He isn't a ghost yet. Analysis of the scene. The minister as the GFW. He represents the logic of the firewall, quiet, persistent, and seemingly everywhere. He isn't a thug. He's a bureaucrat of silence. The lingering hallucination. This is a classic symptom of complex PTSD, where the hypnopompic state, the transition from sleep to waking, allows the nightmare to overlay onto reality. The connection to Hana. By ending on Hana's message, you show that she is the only thing tethering him to the first Earth, and keeping him from being swallowed by the second. Backstory. The forge of the second Earth. The town, Oak Ridge. Flashback. Late 90s. Donnie grew up in a town where the air felt heavy with unsaid threats. It was a dying industrial pocket where the KKK held the local council and the mafia ran the docks. The main street wasn't a place of community. It was a gauntlet of anti-Jewish propaganda and racial gatekeeping. Donnie spent his teens in a basement, not because he was a nerd, but because the world outside was a predatory wreck. He learned to code as a way to build a door out of a town that didn't want him to think. The ultimatum, 2004. Fast forward to the visa office. Zhang Gay, a man whose face was always half obscured by cigarette smoke, sat across from Donnie. He didn't want money. He wanted the keys to the kingdom. Zhang Gay, in a low, gravelly tone. You want to see the mainland? You want to see the first Earth? Then build me a way to bypass it. I need a Java socket relay system that can tunnel through the backbone routers. Give me a router hack that the GFW's intrusion detection won't flag. No code, no visa. NT. Donnie's apartment. 2004. Flashback. The apartment is a graveyard of caffeine pills and empty takeout boxes. The curtains have been drawn for 3 weeks. The only light comes from 3 monitors flickering with raw Java syntax and TCP/IP stack configurations. Donnie's skin is sallow, his eyes bloodshot. He hasn't showered in 20 days. He is vibrating with a mix of exhaustion and manic brilliance. Camille, his wife, stands in the doorway. She's holding a clean shirt, her face etched with a mix of terror and pity. She thinks he's just obsessed with a startup project. She has no idea the NSA is already monitoring the very packets he's sending to Janga. Camille. Donnie, please, look at yourself. You're shaking. Just come to bed. Turn it off for one night. Donnie, voice raspy, fingers never stopping. I can't, Camille. If I stop, the handshake fails. If the handshake fails, the tunnel collapses. I'm almost through. I can see the other side. Camille, crying. It's just code. Why is it more important than eating? Than us? Donnie doesn't answer. He can't tell her that he's seen the propaganda the Chinese ministry is feeding its people. The same vitriol, the same othering he saw in Oak Ridge. He's realizing that the KKK in his hometown and the censors in Beijing are the same monster, just wearing different suits. He hits enter. The terminal pauses, then scrolls, relay established on source obfuscated. He has his visa, but he's already lost his soul to the machine. Enter Donnie's bedroom. Present day. Donnie sits on the edge of the bed, the memory of Camille's sobbing still ringing in his ears, louder than the Metallica song from the riot. Donnie, to the empty room. I did it for the right reasons, Camille. I just didn't know the tunnels went both ways. Analysis of the relay logic. The Java socket relay Donnie built was essentially a SOX 5 proxy implementation built from scratch to avoid signature-based detection. By targeting the router hack, Donnie was likely exploiting vulnerabilities in Cisco or Huawei firmware that allowed him to redirect traffic at the hardware level before it even hit the GFW's inspection filters. Chapter. It's raining Bibles in China. and the humidity hit Donnie like a physical wall as he stepped out of the Beijing Capital International Airport. It was 2005, and the air smelled of coal smoke, exhaust, and the ozone of an approaching storm. In his messenger bag, he felt the weight of his laptop and the encrypted USB, the Java socket relay system that had cost him his marriage and a month of sanity. He remembered the final interview with the official who approved his visa. The man had combed through Donnie's luggage with surgical precision. He had looked at the bottles of fluoxetine for Donnie's depression, then at the technical manuals. Finally, he looked Donnie in the eye. "Code is fine," the official had said, his voice flat. "Medication is fine, but no Bibles. Do not bring the word of God into the Middle Kingdom. We have our own truth." Donnie had nodded, a cold sweat chilling his neck. The official had no idea that the word Donnie was bringing was written in Java syntax, a digital gospel designed to tear down the very walls the official was paid to guard. Arrival terminal. Continuous. The crowd was a sea of black hair and white short-sleeved shirts. Amidst the chaos of shouting taxi drivers and tour groups, Donnie saw him. A man stood near a concrete pillar holding a simple cardboard sign that read, "Data Services." This was the moment. Signs can be faked. Shadows can be bought. Donnie approached the man, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. The man was middle-aged, with skin like weathered parchment, and eyes that didn't stop moving. He lowered the sign as Donnie stopped in front of him. "You are the engineer?" the man asked in heavily accented English. Donnie took a breath, leaning in close so his voice wouldn't carry over the roar of the airport transit. He used the very restriction they had tried to impose on him as his shield. "I was told I couldn't bring a Bible," Donnie whispered. The man's expression didn't change, but his posture stiffened. He looked Donnie dead in the eye and gave the countersign they had established through a secure PGP encrypted channel weeks prior. "Then you must be the cloud maker," the man replied. Donnie felt a surge of adrenaline, the kind that usually preceded a manic episode. He smiled, a jagged, tired expression. "That's right," Donnie said. "And by the time I'm done, it's going to be raining Bibles in China." The driver nodded once, a sharp, professional gesture. He grabbed Donnie's suitcase and began walking toward the parking garage where a black sedan was idling. "Janga is waiting," the driver said. "The routers are already being staged. We have a lot of work to do before the sun comes up." Donnie followed, stepping into the dark interior of the car. As they pulled away from the curb, the first drops of a heavy summer rain began to hit the windshield. Donnie looked out at the Beijing skyline, the massive cranes and half-finished skyscrapers, looking like the bones of a giant. He reached into his bag and touched the USB drive. The second Earth was no longer a theory in an Oak Ridge basement. It was here. NT, Chinese Communication Center Hotel. Night, 2005. The room is sterile, bathed in the sickly green hum of server racks in the hallway. Evan sits at a small desk, his face pale in the glow of a laptop, and he looks younger than his years, a bright mind caught in a shadow work. Evan, anxious. "Donnie, the internal network is hardwired. There's no outbound. It's a total blackout. We can't get the relay to talk to the exterior nodes." Donnie stands by the window, looking out at the sprawling, smog-choked grid of Beijing. He pulls a small silver USB drive from his pocket. It feels heavier than it should. "Donnie, we can." He slides the drive across the desk. Evan stares at it, hesitant. Donnie continued. "Take it. It's the Java socket relay. It doesn't need a clear path. It carves one." Evan whispering. "Does the NSA know you're handing this over here? Or the ministry?" "Donnie, everyone's watching, Evan. But nobody's seeing. Just remember, When you look at the source code, look for the tag. Bug was here. That's the only part of me that's real in there. Donnie turns back to the window. In the reflection, his face looks like the terracotta people from his dreams, gray, cracked, and ancient. Donnie continued. I have a meeting with Z-Piece. You stay here. Keep the tunnel open. Scene 5. The District and the Distortion. Exta 798 Art District. Day. Donnie walks through a labyrinth of industrial warehouses repurposed into galleries. He is flanked by Hana, who moves with the grace of a professional guardian. Hana translating softly. The artist says this piece is about industrial harmony. Donnie looks at a massive sculpture of a gear crushing a human heart. It's clearly anti-communist. A subliminal scream hidden in plain sight. Donnie. The government lets them show this? Hana, they allow the steam to vent, Donnie. It keeps the boiler from exploding. Suddenly the world tilts. The statues in the gallery begin to blink. Donnie sees the minister, the corrupt politician from his nightmares, standing behind a pillar, adjusting his tie. The sound of Metallica starts to bleed into the ambient noise of the crowd. Hana continued. Donnie? You're pale. You haven't slept in 3 days? Donnie, shivering. Do you see him? In the suit? Hana looks at the empty pillar, then back at Donnie. Her eyes soften with an honest protector's clarity. She doesn't judge the hallucination. She just anchors him. Hana, focus on my voice. We are here for the Parsons Satellite School Detail. That is the mission. The rest is just the ash from the volcano. Scene 6. The Limo of Silence. Exta Beijing streets. Night. After the chaos at the Irish bar, Donnie is shoved into the back of a black armored limo. The interior is plush, smelling of leather and ozone. He is alone in the back. A thick, tinted privacy window separates him from the driver. He taps on the glass, but there is no response. He never sees the driver's face, never hears a word. He pulls out his phone. A message from Sven flashes. Debug. Heads up. The Russians at the symposium are sniffing the relay. They're looking for the debug tag. Keep your head down. Donnie leans back, closing his eyes. He is 30 years old, a ghost in a machine, trapped in a silent car moving through a city of stone. He thinks of Hana waiting at the safe house, the only person who sees the man behind the code. Donnie, to the glass. I'm still here. Bug was here. The limo accelerates, a silent predator in the rain. Next step. This builds a tension between the NSA/CCP surveillance and Donnie's failing mental state. Would you like to write the safe house reunion with Hana where they finally discuss the Bible's code, or should we see the Sven/Russian subplot at the symposium? Chapter. The Threshold of the Second Earth. NT, Chinese Communication Center, Hotel. Night, 2005. The air in the room was stale, smelling of ozone and the metallic tang of unwashed skin. Donnie stood by the window, his reflection a ghost against the Beijing skyline. He hadn't showered, slept, or eaten in nearly a month. His hands, though steady on the keyboard, felt like they belonged to someone else. Behind him, Evan Harper checked the internal diagnostics for the 10th time. Evan was younger, a close friend Donnie had selected specifically for this detail. He looked terrified. Evan, voice trembling. They said the internal network is hardwired. Total blackout. We can't get out, Donnie. Donnie turned, pulling the silver USB from his pocket. The one containing the Java socket relay. He had bypassed the backbone routers, creating a tunnel where the CCP and NSA both expected a wall. Donnie, give them this. Tell them it's the code for the satellite school project. Once it clears customs, the tunnel opens. He handed the drive to Evan. It was the Bible in digital form, the promise that it would soon be raining truth in China. NT. The fancy hotel and elevator. Dream sequence, present day. Suddenly, the green hum of the communication center shifted. Donnie found himself in a high-rise hotel, the kind of fancy place he had stayed in years later as a CEO, but Evan was there with him. Donnie was dressed in a sharp suit, a stark contrast to the sallow, broken engineer of 2005. The elevator doors slid shut, and the space was cramped. Donnie reached into his pocket and pulled out a single plastic bottle. Inside, his entire life rattled. Fluoxetine for the depression, the PTSD meds, and the caffeine pills that had kept him awake during the month of the debug tag, all mixed together. One bottle. Donnie, Evan, we have to check the code. I never checked it after it cleared customs. Evan, it's too late, debug. We're at the gate. The elevator chimed and the doors hissed open. But they weren't in Beijing anymore. The doors opened directly into the blinding neon roar of Times Square, NYC. Evan stepped out with a confidence Donnie didn't feel. He walked toward a line of U.S. Custom Guards standing like stone sentinels at the edge of the city. Donnie, Evan! Wait. Donnie tried to step forward, but his feet felt like they were set in the same terracotta as the statues from his nightmares. He watched Evan clear the security gates, passing through the threshold into the freedom of the city. Evan looked back once, the USB glinting in the neon light, and then he vanished into the crowd. Donnie stood alone at the gate, clutching his bottle of pills, afraid to move past the guards, lost in the architecture of a mission that never ended. He woke up with the sound of the elevator chime still ringing in his ears. Scene. The silent scroll. NT. Beijing Capital International Airport. Chrome. Security checkpoint. Night 2005. A blurry, overexposed image of a standard security checkpoint. Figures move like ghosts. Donnie, 30, stands at the edge of the security line, his laptop open on the gray tray, the silver USB drive, a silent sentinel beside it. He's pale, eyes sunken, but there's a flicker of defiant madness in them. Then a flicker. A face. Sven, Tim Robbins, late 50s, a quiet storm of intellect and weary resolve, stands on the other side of the checkpoint. He's watching Donnie. His gaze is intense, unblinking. Sven, the man who quietly fed Donnie intelligence about Russian movements, is now a physical, unexpected anchor in this disorienting escape. Donnie's mind flashes to Sven's reports. They're sniffing the relay bug. They're looking for your tag. Now, Sven is here, a guardian at the gate. A text on the screen reads, Bug was here. The image of Sven, Tim Robbins, at the security checkpoint with Donnie's laptop and USB drive remains, a stark, unexpected encounter. Scene. The handlers drop. Exterior Beijing Capital International Airport. Drop-off zone. Non-linear flashback, 2005. The armored limo is gone. Donnie is being pulled from a nondescript sedan, his body heavy, his mind a static-filled radio. A handler, a man whose face is a blur, shoves him towards the chaos of the airport entrance. Handler whispering urgently in Mandarin, Japan, standard flight, non-American, keep your head down. Donnie's head throbs, fragments of a memory surface. An argument, a betrayal, a sense of having been used, discarded. The words burst out, unbidden, guttural. Donnie screaming in English. I'll kill you all, every single one of you. The handler shoves him again, harder. A small vial is pressed to Donnie's lips. The world blurs, distorts. The sound of his own screams becomes muffled, distant. He remembers the taste, bitter, chemical. And then, a long, dark slide into oblivion. He's conscious enough to register being dragged, shuffled, then abandoned, left on a bench amidst the throngs of bewildered travelers. The laptop bag is still clutched in his hand, the USB a fragile piece of glass in his pocket. The memory is a broken film reel. Much of it is gone, erased by the chemical haze. Scene: the Embassy Gate. Interior: Beijing Capital International Airport. Embassy Gate. Continuous, 2005. Donnie floats through the airport, the world a soft-focused blur around him. The scream is a distant echo in his own ears. He's been moved, processed, almost like a piece of cargo. He remembers the handler leaving him, vanishing into the crowd. He's somehow at a different gate now, a quieter one, marked by a small, discreet sign that reads, Embassy Liaison. This isn't the standard flight to Japan, the handler mentioned. This is the Embassy Gate, a back channel. He puts his laptop and the USB drive on the security tray. The memory is still fuzzy, but the shock of recognition clears some of the fog. Standing there, waiting for him, is Sven, Tim Robbins. His face is etched with a calm, knowing gravity, his eyes holding a depth of understanding that Donnie's drugged mind struggles to grasp. Sven gives a subtle, almost imperceptible nod, a silent message of recognition and perhaps a shared burden. Donnie is utterly surprised. He clears the gate. His laptop, his USB, his unstable mind. He's out. The image from the prompt with Sven, Tim Robbins, at the checkpoint, now feels complete, a snapshot of that impossible, surreal escape.